seconds, in 9, in 8, in 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Happy 1994!
I've been studying the Holocaust for many years now, but a couple years back I got the opportunity to visit Poland with a couple of Holocaust survivors. And I realized when I was there that there is a great difference between reading about the Holocaust at home in America and actually being in Auschwitz with Holocaust survivors who are recounting the stories about how their families were murdered. I guess you could say that I understood at that point that there's a great difference between knowing the facts about what happened and actually understanding what happened. And I think that the greatest barrier to my understanding of the Holocaust has always been the number of Jews that were murdered. 6 million by the Nazis' own account. Now the number 6 million is commonly used in reference to the Holocaust, but it really is too large to comprehend. It's so large a number that it becomes abstracted. To illustrate this point, I tried to figure out how old I would be if I lived to be 6 million hours in a lifetime. Now, people I asked guessed that I would be 80 or 90 years old, and some said over 100. In fact, if I were to live 6 million hours in a lifetime, I would live to be well over 600 years old. So, if we can't comprehend the number 6 million, how can we possibly understand the magnitude of what happened during the Holocaust? In an attempt for me to increase my personal understanding, I set out on January 1st, 1994, to count to 6 million. I would count 6 million grains of rice so that when I was done, I'd have something to show for it, so that I could sit back and I could look at 6 million objects together and say that this is the number that we are discussing. Basically, I'd count the grains of rice in groups of 100, and when I was done, I would mark the number 100 on a piece of paper, just so that I wouldn't get lost. When I told my friends that I was doing this, obviously they said that I was crazy. They said it would take weeks, weeks for me to count to 6 million. But I think that even then I knew that it would take considerably longer.
Life, I love you, all is groovy.
Mrs. Patrick Campbell said of this vegetarian, "God help us if he should ever eat a beefsteak." Good luck.
it's ridiculous. I've never heard anything more asinine in my whole life.
So what did he say to you?
He said, first of all, he said that the Holocaust never happened, which is like, I'd have an easier time convincing someone that the Holocaust happened than were to convince them that that World War II happened, because there's more fucking evidence. It's like the most documented event in human history. I went to Auschwitz, right? And there's this pile of human ash that's over 200 tons. It weighs over 200 tons. It's like, I'm making this up. Like I'm hiding 6 million Jews in my fucking closet. I slip them matzah underneath the door or something like that. The Americans said it happened. The Jews said it happened. The Nazis said it happened. And I got to come to America to have some backwards hick, tell me that it didn't happen. It's ludicrous. I've never heard of anything so asinine in my life. I don't know if you understand.
Just relax.
Relax. Not gonna relax.
Cause the bridge washed out at the bottom of the hill. The big creek's up and the little creek's level. Plow my corn with a double shovel. Stay all night, stay a little longer. Dance all night, dance a little longer. Pull off your coat, throw it in the corner. Don't see why you ain't stay a little longer. Sitting in the window singing to my love. Flop dusty fell from the window above. Mule and the grasshopper eating ice cream. Mule got sick, so the lady on the beam. Stay all night, stay a little longer. Dance all night, dance a little longer. Pull off your coat, throw it in the corner. Don't see why you can't stay a little longer. She lives away down on Shinbone Alley. The number on the gate, number on the door. The next house over is the grocery store. Stay all night, stay a little longer. Dance all night, dance a little longer. Pull off the coat, throw it in the corner. Don't see why you can't stay a little longer.
That's what he's afraid of. He's afraid if he pays child support, he's going to go spend it on something else. Well, the main thing for support is you're gonna pay your way. I mean, you don't want to do that because it interrupts with your party time.
I will.
Yeah.
Let me hear more times. Great shot.
New book, I suppose that's a pretty valuable piece of property.
Look at, we have a whole kitchen full of appliances. Take a look at those.
Paperback writer, just me.
I met friend in common.
Joking with you.
Recognize themselves on TV.
Breiteten aber noch die alten Gaskammern. Und weil so viele Menschen anfielen, so viele Tote, die man nicht wegräumen konnten, lagen tagelang ganze Haufen von Menschen vor der Gaskammer. Unter diesen Menschen war eine Kloak, 10 Zentimeter hoch, Blut, Würmer, und Dreck. Ja.
Wo?
Vor der Gaskammer,
Ja.
nicht wahr? Es wollte das niemand wegräumen. Die Juden, die haben sich lieber erschießen lassen und haben dort nicht arbeiten wollen. Die Juden sagen 5 auf jeder Seite, ich sage 4, aber ich kann es nicht behaupten, aber verwendet wurden nur die auf dieser Seite in Aktion, diese Seite, gell?
Und warum nicht die andere Seite?
Weil der Leichentransport zu kompliziert gewesen wäre. Gell?
Zu weit?
Ja, weil Wirth ließ dann dieses Lager erbauen und hat für hier heroben Arbeitsjuden eingeteilt. Das war ein ständiges Judenkommando von ca. 200 Personen.
Die im Totenlager...
Die im Totenlager immer gearbeitet haben.
Ja, aber was war die Kapazität, die neue Gaskammer?
Ja, die neue Gaskammer, also man war mit 3000 Menschen in 2 Stunden fertig.
I get a little sick around this time of year, every year. Anyway, I've been counting for rice every chance I got, every spare moment I got, as much rice as possible. Why don't you get this? For about 8 months now, and I finally reached 1 million grains. Basically, here you can get me again. Kind of amazes me that, if that's 1 million, and if this was like one person, this would be, I guess, a fairly large building, and this would be perhaps several city blocks. I guess I kind of didn't realize when I started, but if I wanted to count 6 million in a year, which I was hoping to do, I'd have to count about 10,000 a day. So obviously I'm not going to be able to reach my deadline. Basically, I guess I'll just keep counting as much as possible, and I'll do the children first, and I'll go on to the adults.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, 1.5 million. Nazis killed about 1.5 million children. So this is only. This is 1 million. So I'll do the children first, and then I'll go on and do the adults and whatnot. But you can have a lot of fun with this stuff. Not fun, but this is, for example, this is the number of Americans that were killed in Vietnam. So there's a whole bunch of comparisons that you'll make, and I'm not quite sure what I'll do with this when and if I finish. But I am hoping that that the project will inspire people, maybe learn about the Holocaust, or at least answer the question, why
why the Jews are trying so hard not to forget that happened. So, well, as you see, I have my work cut out for me, so I'm gonna get back to work.
Experience is not just something you have yourself. Every time you have real communication with another person, it's possible to empathize and experience internally an experience that is being communicated to you by another person. So that's about it.
I know that I have like a certain darkness inside of me, which is a source of strength.
I don't think it's just what one lives through that is one's legacy, one's culture.
I mean, who are you, you know?
The fables and the fairy tales, you know, that I first learned, or the stories that particularly my mother told me of, you know, how they got through the war and the whole family being wiped out.
The little family that is left is spread all over the world.
36 cadavers a minute, 108 bodies an hour, or 2,592 per 24 hours because they burned non-stop.
Very strange feeling growing up that I had just escaped.
I had a sense of, you know, impending disaster and catastrophe, which was absolutely felt on the skin and absolutely real. I mean, I was just waiting for the catastrophe to come. It was going to come. Somewhere, somehow it was going to come.
One day, the Oberscharführer said the following to the people inside the gas chamber. Gentlemen, after having robbed the world, you have come to Birkenau. Here, everybody must work in his own trade. The doctors, the engineers, the lawyers, etc. Take your clothes off and keep them neat to find them when you exit. Help us disinfect you, because you come from countries that have epidemics, and to do that, get next to each other real tight, so we don't have to repeat the operation twice. The prisoners obeyed. Before closing the blockhouse doors, laughing a satanic laugh, he shouted to them, "Und jetzt werden sie sterben wie die Ochsen. And now you will die like oxen."
Biggest way to lose, I guess, in a way, is to be killed by somebody after having been told that you're shit.
Some of my friends died because a couple wanted to prove to another couple that it was possible to kill someone with a single blow.
You know, the destiny of Jews was to suffer.
The SS would tell us, here there's only one exit, the chimney.
Why do people try to destroy other people?
As it says in the Torah, your children and your grandchildren will bear the responsibility for those things you did not do in your lifetime. And maybe our parents were the grandchildren of those grandparents who didn't abide by what they were supposed to abide by. And so we paid that price, and we didn't have grandparents.
Spirits are the spirits of people who died, you know, before me, and that those spirits are with me still. And the way that they died was horrible, and so that those spirits, you know, they want something. They don't just want to, they don't just want me to live like nothing happened, you know.
I saw an SS take a kid by the feet and throw it up in the air while another would shoot on this living target.
For a long time, I felt that my life was supposed to redeem all the lost lives, to give you a heavy answer. And I think I felt that very strongly.
Later, an SS tears a baby away from his mother and rips him in two pieces while holding him by one leg and keeping the other under his own foot.
My father was married and had 3 daughters before the war. They were all wiped out. He then, when he married my mother and had 2 children, myself and my sister, he kept himself completely aloof and distant from us at all times.
I have not experienced the pain, the suffering directly, but I have experienced the consequences of the Second World War on my parents. And the consequences, the cries, the nightmares, the calling of the names, the sad stories, the fact that my mother doesn't have a single relative in this world.
The dead are mute and can tell nothing.
I have a hard time, a very hard time accepting that my parents went into the camps.
This concentration camp issue.
The questions I had were never answered, so I felt more and more like I want to know, I want to comprehend, I want to understand, I want to see. And that's building up, it's just building up. It's not getting better, because the questions had never been answered.
Nothing to do with the past.
First having to deal with the anger, you know, towards my parents at being so unhappy, you know, at making such a big deal of being Jewish. You know, I mean, really letting my you know, crying and you know, and feeling terrible, and really letting my feelings out, my internalized anti-Semitic feelings against my parents. Not my real my parents in reality, but, you know, play acting or crying or whatever, you know, and so, you know, and just being overwhelmed by where was all this feeling coming from, you know? Once I got rid of that, you know, then I started examining then I started realizing that some of the rage I felt towards my parents was really towards whoever had hurt them.
This concentration camp issue has nothing to do with the past, nothing.
I've always felt that I could not express that anger openly because I would be threatened, because I would somewhat break down the status quo, which said, well, all right, you're a Jew, but just keep it to yourself and everything's going to be all right.
The threat is no longer the extermination of Jews, but our own loss of identity.
You know, the times when I would stand up for my Jewishness were precisely the times when it was attacked.
So my Jewish identity came only because of what happened during World War II to the Jews. And I knew I was Jewish. So it was a very negative identity.
My father never told me I was a Jew.
I wished that I wasn't Jewish.
As a matter of fact, many Jews changed their name in order to a kind of be invisible as Jews.
I had feeling that it's a disease that I should be able to get rid of.
I could be a Jew.
He asked me to go for a walk, and we walked down the corridor of my floor. He put his arm on my shoulder. He must have been 13. He is 3 years older than I. And very earnestly he asked, are you Jewish? Now, mind you, I knew he was Jewish. It was like a secret question on this secret walk. And I remember my heart stopped because I was frightened. And then I sort of roused myself and remembered that he was Jewish. And I said I was. And then he said, me too, I remember. And that sort of, to me, is a very clear, I think a very clear expression of how timid and how worried I think we were and how much in need of knowing who the other was.
Nobody was to know about it.
I wanted so desperately for no one to know that I was Jewish.
I would be very careful not to disclose that I am Jewish.
And in Holland, I was always very much afraid to mention even that I was Jewish.
I felt that I'm Jewish, I wanted to be Jewish, but I didn't want anybody else to know it.
I could not stand and say, I am a Jew, and fight for it.
I could be a Jew, but nobody was to know about it.
I mean, to say I'm a Jew meant not to be ashamed, you know, of being anything. It meant not being ashamed. It meant saying, yes, you know, Jews are people. You know, I am a person as a Jew.
When I was about 5 years old, at one point, my mother went into a building in Warsaw to transact some business and left me to wait for her outside the building. This was soon after I was separated from my dog, a German Shepherd, because when we moved to Warsaw from Toruń, our apartment was too small to hold a dog. And I saw a policeman walking by with a German Shepherd that looked very much like my dog used to. So I came over to try to pet the dog. And instead, the policeman told the dog to get the Jew, and so the dog grabbed me by the ankle and started dragging me along the street. And of course I started to scream. My mother came out of the building, and the policeman called the dog back. And my mother was outraged enough to go to the police station to try to lodge a complaint, but she was told that not only would they not take a complaint from her, but if she told anyone about it, she would be prosecuted for slandering socialist authority. And, you know, at that point, I mean, I knew I was Jewish.
Each Jew is really a part of the same story, of one same story.
I remember vividly one person suddenly asked me, what the fuck are you doing here, you fucking Jew? And I have never seen this person before in my life.
Well, there's something wrong with us. We're different. We're a different race. You know, we're different people. Like, we're just a different race. And we're not pure, you know. There's something about Europeans that is pure, is white, and we're not as white as Europeans. And there's something wrong in us, you know, and we do look different because obviously we have curly hair, hook nose, and all this, and we are darker skinned a little bit, so we're like a different kind of sort of species, you know, sort of blood. We have different blood, so that makes us different. And our minds are also different. We think different, we scheme, you know, we have conspiracies. Now, I learned these things little by little, but that was the general. Also, we are very rich.
My anger was so great that day my sister was attacked by this woman. This woman who was 65 years old and had seen us since we were children and was attacking an 11-year-old, which was ridiculous as a situation. I felt that anger was so formless and shapeless and just so enormous that I could not fight back. I could not find even an intelligent, witty way of getting out of it.
We're cheap.
I remember disliking Jews very much.
We're ugly.
They wouldn't know, those kids 6, 7 years old, they wouldn't know to say, well, you dirty Jew. They would call me Chinese. They say, hey, you're Chinese, why don't you go and eat your rice? So again, I said, well, you see, I am dark. They all are blondish, and I'm different. I'm a Jew. I don't belong here.
I tried growing up as a French person, and, you know, at age 21, suddenly slap in the face. You're not French, you're a Jew.
Each Jew is really a part of the same story, of one same story.
Europe, it's not for me, because my family was killed there.
You know, my parents had survived those years, endangered every moment as everyone else, every other Jew. And I think that sense doesn't disappear just because the country is liberated from the Nazis.
In Germany, the only way you could be sane is to ignore what happened.
In the back of my mind, I wanted to show this film, in a way I do, to all these people I hate so much who try to destroy me in Austria, and let them know that even after the war, they still are destroying Jewish life. Like mine. And I'm not the only one. There are other people like me who suffered so much in their childhood. And that suffering was so irrelevant. It was so silly. It was so demoralizing. That's why I left. You know, I couldn't take it anymore.
Even if I personally had anti-Semitic incidents in Poland, I would never say that Poland is an anti-Semitic country. Because it will be, the statement is too general, and because I was a victim of many negative generalizations.
2,000 people believed they were going to America and died. Instead of being taken to America, they were taken to the gas chambers.
Here I feel like a newborn, almost. Everything is new, and the history didn't take place here. That history didn't take place here, so I have another chance, in a way.
Because the foreigners are more accepted in America than in Europe. And a Jew is a kind of a foreigner, so it's easier to be a Jew in America.
There was this Jewish girl, and she was standing in the front of the bus, and I was a little bit further away, and she would say, "What are you doing, Hanukkah?" So I said, you know, don't yell. don't say that, because in Holland, if you would say Hanukkah, they would laugh, or nobody would say anything, but they would really look at you as if you were disturbed or anything. So I said, well, Hanukkah, I'm here or I'm there or whatever, but he said, why not? Say it loud. You want to say it loud? You say it loud. Everybody knows we are Jewish. And that made me feel very good. I said, well, it's true. One is Jewish, one is black, one is Puerto Rican. You are allowed to say who you are.
It took me a while to realize that it was actually normal to say, I'm Jewish. To me, it wasn't. And as a fact, when I speak French and I say, and I say in French, I still feel it, I mean, I can't say I'm Jewish in French without feeling those feelings again.
I think I'm just getting used to the idea that life may go on, but I didn't for a long, long time. I mean, I think I really expected not to live.
The top of one iceberg. You want me to tell you a joke? Everything is because of the Jew. If there was no Jew, there wouldn't be any pogrom, there wouldn't be any concentration camp, so there wouldn't be any problems in Israel if there was no Jew. So there wouldn't never be problem. Even the Titanic wouldn't have sunk. So on the Titanic, what the Jew has to go to the iceberg, wasn't he Jew?
Being a good ambassador is why perhaps sometimes when I am about to anticipate an unpleasant confrontation with a sales clerk or a bank teller, when I know I'm going to argue with someone and they're probably not going to be pleased with me, before that I usually stick my Jewish star inside so they won't think, that nasty Jew, they're all alike.
It's essential for a Jew anywhere in the world for there to be one place where Jews are in control and masters of their own fate and capable of helping other Jews elsewhere.
From the moment you have to say that you're a Jew, you really have to prove more. You have to be the best. You have to show that, otherwise you can't stay here.
Although I was born in Germany, I had a passport that said in German, homeless foreigner. And my entire family had that kind of a passport. And I guess emotionally I still feel that way.
Hopefully my home becomes where I am about.
The only home is the Jewishness for me. The only anchorable identity.
I wish there wouldn't be Jewishness and that there wouldn't be non-Jewishness. But we start from where we are.
And there's this constant feeling positive about being Jewish and negative at the same time. It's very ambivalent. And as a result of this dichotomy, I have to go through extremes. When I'm feeling extremely positive about Jewish, it's not enough just to have a normal rabbi coming and marrying you off or whatever, but I have to do it with a Lubavitch. You know what I'm saying? And when it's time to feel negative about being Jewish, then I just don't choose to have any Jewish friends or Jewish people around me, and just leave me alone with the shtetl and the Yiddish stuff and all that crap, and I get really into that. So it's one way or the other.
There's sort of a side of me that's very heavy and sort of, and I've always tried to get away with this, and I really didn't understand why, or until I really started seeing that it was really a side of my parents, and it was really a side of their personality, that I had also internalized. And then when I started dealing with the heavy, with the heavy and the painful stuff, and that they had experienced, I also started realizing that they must have had tremendous amount of strength and tremendous amount of courage to survive all this, and that probably along with everything else they had passed that on to me too.
My understanding of life is somehow we grow in sort of the crude language, sort of swallowing our parents, swallowing our experience. And when one is more formed, I think these swallowed people, our parents, become more dominant and somehow have to be dealt with in a new way, in a more deep way. And I think in that, having arrived at an age in which one is not profoundly rebellious, one is not so fragile to sort of be insistently or rigidly one, seeing oneself in a certain way. I think parents become very important. And since my parents and their parents and their parents for generations have been Jews, it becomes more clearly a tangible part of me.
It's like a little spark in me. What kind of cliché do you have? What kind of place are you stuck at?
If I said like, oh, don't say this about us, I mean, it's not nice, it's not good to say those things, like, why do you say these things? Why do you hate us, If I said like that, I don't usually feel very good afterwards. But if I say, listen, I'm a Jew, if you don't like it, you can go to hell, And if I said like that, and because I know it's the truth, then I feel pretty good about it, because it's the truth.
Do you think that blacks stink? Do you think that Arabs are lazy?
You have to be a fighter and not be afraid of death or not to be afraid of anything.
Where are you stuck? Do you think Jews are about to take over the world?
I'm a fighter.
If you're stuck, it just leads to war.
As Elie Wiesel put it, he said, now we're all Jews. We're all threatened with extinction.
I guess one of the ways to fight anti-Semitism is to feel that you can fight anti-Semitism. Is to really, really believe righteously that no one has the right to hurt another Jew or to hurt you because you're a Jew, and to believe it with all your heart.
Well, it's happened in so many different stages, and where it is today is really the strongest. It's really, I've never felt like wanting to be more Jewish than I feel right now. Right this very moment, it's like I'm on fire.
I feel like there's a flame in me, and it comes from a long, long time ago.